Okay, ready?
What's that from? That's
The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
Oh, it's High School Musical.
Oh,
It's High School Musical. That's what I'm referencing.
I know you love that. I can't stand that.
I don't love it. I think it's
I
shocking.
thought you did. Oh, I thought you liked it.
No, I think it's fun,
Sorry.
but it's shocking.
Oh, you think it's fun?
Yeah. Oh, it's heaps fun. It's got a. I don't know. Okay, here's a life philosophy of mine.
I'm confused.
To begin, I went to the Jonas Brothers in concert.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. You can't think of anything worse. I went to the Jonas Brothers in concert with my wife, who loves the Jonas Brothers, and they were amazing. Like their band, unbelievable. And so that was fun to watch and get involved. There was a dude sitting like 2 away from me with his partner, and she was loving it. She was like having the best time. And I'm like, of course she is. Like it's there was every person in the audience was Katie's age. Like it was their era. And the Jonas
They
Brothers
got
are
into
back
Jonas
and they're
Brothers
in.
in high school.
Yeah. They grew up with the Jonas Brothers. It was all like heaps of their references. And anyway, these guys come out and everyone's losing their minds and watching the Jonas Brothers. This dude just deadpan the whole show. Like the whole, however long, hour, 2 hours of just like, he was deadpan. He didn't move. Like, you know how like when fun music is playing, at least you bop a little bit? Nothing. He was given nothing.
Like,
and I'm like,
I've been dragged here.
yeah, I'm like, if you are going to go to a show with your partner or with a friend, have fun. Or she should have brought someone else.
Well, don't go. Yeah.
Like, or don't go. Like, if you're not gonna give them the fun, what's the point? Like, I don't know. If I went to a sporting game with two teams I didn't care about, and my friend really loves one of the teams, I am fully investing in the team that he is here for.
Yeah.
Like, even though I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, because you be a good friend and you do the fun thing. Anyway, in my relationship with Katie, there has been a lot of those things where I've like watched a lot of chick flicks and I've watched a lot of like I've went to the Jonas Brothers and I had the best time. It is so fun. You just gotta like, I don't know.
You're just like way
Switch
more
off a
open
bit.
That stuff. I'm just like, I just can't. Like the whole Taylor Swift thing. Like I know
See,
you
I
love
love
Taylor
it. It's
Swift.
awesome.
I know you do.
Heaps of
I can't
fun.
do it. I can't do it.
It's so fun.
It's just-
I think it's also a like I also don't think that there are many things that I can't that I often don't I'm often not very talented in myself. I'm not a very talented person,
That's
and
not-
so I
that's
don't. And so
blatantly
in
not
my
true.
lack of talent, I don't recognize things as awfully as other people do.
I see what you're saying, but
That's where I'm
I
going.
don't think it's true that you don't have any talents. But
My talent is
Have we
not in
started the
many of
podcast?
those areas. Pardon?
have we started?
I don't know.
I feel like we have.
We can talk about my talent later.
Yeah, you have many talents.
But none of them are in music.
Okay, well that's okay.
That's one of them. And none of them are in sport. And so those are two things that I don't have opinions about. Like I do have
Yeah,
opinions
that is
about those
true.
things, but I don't think I have earned those opinions at all. And so I'm super willing to go to it. Like there were at the Jonas Brothers, very talented musicians. This dude got up and did a melodica solo halfway through. And it was the
Wow.
most unbelievable. He had been playing keys all night. And then he's this like the coolest African-American man you've ever seen, just like killing it on the keys. And then he comes out into the middle of the stage with a little melodica that's
What's a melodica again?
it's a keyboard that you can play with your mouth.
Oh, that you blow into and then
Yeah,
you play. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And he's blowing it, and it's like it's like sparkly black, like it's awesome. It's so epic. And he's in the middle of the stage, like doing this unreal solo, and everyone's losing their minds. And I'm like, I have played a melodica. That is what he's doing is not that easy to do.
Yeah.
like it was unreal, and they're not super hard instruments, but like I don't know, it was really cool to to see people. And there was this girl in the band, and she was on the electric guitar, and she was just shredding all night. Like, it was Jonas Brothers songs. It was like lame pop, and she was shredding all night. It was awesome.
That's the thing, though. You're saying that you like that stuff, and then you're like, but it's lame pop. Like,
It is lame pop.
that's what I struggle with. I can't. Yeah.
Like, I'm really content with the fact that people can be talented in their thing. And
Yeah,
people-
well, that's the thing.
the thing can be good. I think it comes back to, I have grown up watching and loving Doctor Who. And one thing that Doctor Who teaches you is that Doctor Who sucks intrinsically. So much of the Doctor Who stuff. Like, you will watch a season of 20 episodes, and 10 of them will be excellent. And 10 of them will be okay. And 5 of them will be okay. And 5 of them will just be the worst thing you've ever seen on television. And you'll love every moment of it because of the content that you're watching, because of the attachment to it. But it teaches you that actually content isn't always good, but when content is good, like, it's sick. And you can see the good in the bad episodes. You can see the good script writing and the good character development and the good, all that kind of stuff. And then you get to later Doctor Who. And
That's an interesting
it
insight.
sucks.
Because I just see Doctor Who, I'm like, oh, it's just not.
Oh, but some of it is some of the best television I've ever seen.
Wow.
And I will stand by that. Like, I've watched some very good television, and I have not been as connected as I have been to some stuff I've seen in Doctor Who.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is something I do know a lot about, if we're talking about the talent thing. Like, it's not necessarily something I'm good at, but I know a lot about, like, writing and
Yes, you do.
And TV making.
Yeah.
And so,
You're also one of the
I
best
love,
public speakers.
I love
know.
Doctor Who. Oh, thank you.
Like,
very
you won
nice.
heaps of public speaking stuff at school, didn't
Oh,
you?
I won a public. I did okay in public speaking. Yes. Yeah.
You also
I did
do
all right.
great sermons.
Thank you.
Very engaging sermons, I would
Thank
say.
you.
Because you always got to be careful saying great sermons. Oh, the preacher is so good. But but yeah, I just, like, when you said before that you don't have any talents, I'm like, immediately I'm like, no. And I have that with a lot of people too, actually. Like, when someone's like, oh, I'm not good at this, or I'm like, shut up.
But I don't think it's not a false humility though.
No, I don't see it as that.
I don't think I'm not just saying stuff because I'm not good at music, and I'm not good at sport.
Yeah, right.
Like, they're actually just things I'm not good at.
Yeah.
And I'm very content in that. Like,
No,
I
I
would love to be
appreciate-
better at both of those things.
But I also appreciate your self-awareness. But sometimes, just as soon as you said, I don't have many talents,
That is true.
that was when I was like,
That was very.
I mean, we all
hyperbolic of
do
me.
that, don't we? We all just go, oh, I'm not very good at this. But I don't like not false humility. I don't like it when people talk themselves down.
True.
Because they want to not put themselves out there, but just like not expose themselves to anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, just stop it. You're so much better at that than you're actually saying. That was
Yeah, I
what
know. I do
frustrates
agree.
me.
That's very true.
So that's to explain my reaction
Yeah, yeah.
to how you said I don't have any talents. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
there are so many things I admire about you.
Thank you, Joel.
And I'm like, you don't need to say that. That's why I said. That's why I responded.
It was quite hyperbolic of me. So
Oh, what a surprise!
yeah. I would never.
That's a talent.
Yeah, I'm really good at hyperbole.
Yeah, you are. You are very good. Well, I mean, we're taking it back to the roots.
That's it. That's
The
it. Just you and me.
original genesis of the Chip Lunch podcast was you and me.
In saying that, if people haven't listened to if people are new to the Chip Lunch podcast,
Yes.
so you might not have actually ever heard me in the last 10 episodes?
Yeah, you haven't been for. Oh, there was one that you were on. Was it Laurelie's second episode or
Possibly,
Laurelie's redo of an episode?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Braden was on that.
I was on something recently. I was drinking a cup of tea.
Yes, you were. It was one of the last ones we recorded
Down
out of the studio.
this studio. Yeah. I haven't been in this studio yet.
Yes, welcome.
It's good to be here. I'm Ethan. If you are, if you're just joining us,
And I'm Joel.
and this is Joel. But yeah, I'm a Chip Lunch OG.
You are, because I was just
Despite my
thinking,
absence,
unfortunately, our guest was not able to make because they lost their voice.
which you kind of need for this.
Yeah, you kind of could do actually need, don't you? Imagine what that podcast would have been like. Really hard to understand.
is how I became a Christian.
I love chicken salt. Give me more chicken salt. And then I put the chips in the freezer. and then I eat them with ice cream.
Hot chips with ice cream slaps, but not cold
It does.
chips with
Hot
ice cream.
chips with ice cream is very good. Yeah, because of the salty and the sweet.
Yeah, and the heat and the cold. It's a good time.
But the original genesis of this podcast, the OG, was that you and me back at Kirrawee one Friday afternoon, were like, let's just try and record something.
Mm-hmm.
And we record talking about becoming a Christian and being a Christian in high school.
Yeah.
I think that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
I still don't know where that episode is.
No,
You
it's gone
might-
forever. I
gone.
don't know. I don't know where it is.
Just fired off into the sun.
It's on the internet somewhere. It's on the hard drive ether.
It's on, I
somewhere.
was going to say, it's not on the internet.
It's on the
is it?
internet. It's on the hard drive ether somewhere.
Yeah. Imagine if someone was hacked us.
It's found that episode. It
And,
would probably look very similar to this one, just in vibes. Maybe not in.
You reckon? I reckon we're probably a lot better.
That's true. That's true. We
This
know
is
what we're doing
episode
now.
130.
That's pretty
Chip Lunch.
crazy. That's wild.
So 131 episodes ago,
Yeah,
we started this podcast.
that's bonkers. Because then the first episode we actually published was you, me, and Braden.
Yes.
And we all said a little bit about how we became a Christian. And
Yes.
so we all did that. And then we all said what our favorite chips were.
Well, good. Yeah.
And that was the whole podcast.
And
That
our
was awesome.
original intention was to kind of make this a bit more of a youth-focused
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
But it ended up expanding itself into just everyone.
Yeah, which was awesome.
Yeah.
It's very so revival of us.
Yeah. We're original soul revivalists. Having said that, you are quite up at being original soul revivalists.
I think if I'm pretty. I've been here for 20. This is my 26th year of Soul Revival.
and you've been it the whole time.
This has also been my 26th year of life.
Yeah, exactly.
And so yeah, we've been going for 30 years, 30 something, 32, 33 years.
yeah.
So I missed the first
What
few.
year were you born in?
1998. So I missed the first few years.
It was 91 when it
92?
started, I think. 92?
92.
91, 92? Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we thought that we would do your episode,
Yeah.
given that, unfortunately, I feel sad for our guest because he had it planned for a long time and then
Yeah.
he got sick. So he's coming on
That's a
after.
shame.
He's decided we've planned that he's going to come on after a week away. So
He's going to be great.
yes, he is. There we go. We narrowed it down by 50%, but we'll leave it to a surprise for the rest of it. We'll do your episode because we've done mine, done Braden's.
Yep.
We might need a two-parter here because Braden's required the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not mine, of course. I was very succinct.
Very succinct, always.
I think we just sped it up. And I'm always talking, so people don't want to hear too much from me. But yeah, let's talk. Let's do your episode.
Sure.
How do you like to have your hot chips, Ethan?
Chicken salt.
Oh,
And apparently with ice cream. I haven't actually had it with ice cream in ages.
chicken salt
But yeah,
with
chicken
ice cream?
salt. No, I don't think chicken salt with ice cream.
See,
I think that would
this
be
is
disgusting.
what I mean.
I think that would be fair.
Plain salt goes with more things.
But my answer, as I probably last talked about it, was there is a spot across the road from Miranda Congregational Church that has
Yes.
like this special type of chicken salt, which I think is just more MSG, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
More Madison Square
I'm-
Garden.
Yeah. So that's my go-to now.
Yeah, I know you've allowed me to try them. I don't.
You don't rate them?
They don't hit the spot like it does for you.
That's fair. But you don't like chicken salt.
No, well, it's a bit of a misnomer. Yeah, actually, I just thought of it then. I just like imagine the taste. I'm like, no, I don't want chicken salt right now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is, because it's just chicken salt turned up to 11. Really, like it's not. It's
Turn
not
it up.
Turn it up.
Turn up the chicken salt. More chickens. More chickens in the salt.
But yeah, so that's me. My name's Ethan, and I like chicken salt on my chips. It's actually my whole identity. We can stop now.
Turn it off.
Yeah, turn it off.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye, everybody.
One way.
One way.
Chips are wrapped up because
Yeah.
he's going to have some more of MSG chips.
That's it.
Right. All right. You ready for the second question?
Let's go. Hit me.
When did you first discover that you were good at public speaking?
But I was good at public speaking.
I wasn't expecting
I
to answer
was-
that either.
I was probably in year one. Or when do you start public speaking at school?
Well, it depends on what. I'm thinking of what my children have done, but
What have
they
your
have
children
like
done?
what's it called?
Like the public speaking.
talking topics, and they like kind of like show and tell and stuff.
Yeah,
Starts from kindergarten.
I don't know if I excelled at that. But when public speaking formally was a thing at school,
Yeah,
that was when I started learning.
probably year 3. We'll say year 3 at least.
Sure. Yeah. So from year 3, let's say that, mum was actually teaching me how to do it. And so much of it's not necessarily just because I'm good at it. It's a lot of it is actually really learned.
Being coached.
Yeah. Mum was really, really good. And she spent a lot of time helping me out. And that's been excellent. I learned some really fundamental skills of talking in front of people. I learned some really fundamental skills of talking on the spot, and also fundamental skills of. So when I write a youth talk now, I can write 4 dot points on a post-it note, and that's and then talk for 5 to 10 minutes, and that's because if I know the content well enough, I can do that. And that's because of the way mum taught me how to do impromptus as a part of that. So if I would highly recommend a kid learning how to do that from a young age, just being like, let's actually get you into the public speaking stuff and do it. You don't have to. There were some kids that were like, I think their parents or they wanted to be lawyers, and so it was, I don't know. There was that vibe of the public speaking.
I object.
Honestly, it was wild. It was like there was one girl who I competed against across the whole of my schooling career, and she went to another school. So every time I made it to the next stage, she would be at this stage, and she just yelled. She just would scream. And she'd be like, and she would modulate properly, but when she was making her point, she would yell about. And at one point, she was yelling about how chickens are caged, and it was just
Chickens are caged.
Chickens are caged, and
Chickens are caged.
and it was just a little inside joke in my family because the style was just very different. But yeah, that's how all my public speaking I attribute to my mum. Like often people are like, oh, you're heaps like your dad in the way you're able to talk. And maybe there is a whole lot of blood there and a whole lot of learning. Like I've always talked a lot. So maybe that's been a part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, mum has done a really good job of teaching me how to do it.
Yeah, okay. I think my earliest memory of you is you coming downstairs at your mum and dad's place when we were having a Bible study there and you doing the speech.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
About Elijah pooing everywhere.
Yeah, that was a good speech. That was a great speech. It was a speech about my brother. And it was really wholesome. And mum wrote it because I was in year 3 and I wasn't writing anything.
That's the thing. My son Leo, he's quite good at preparing a speech and getting into it, but he really struggles with the impromptu.
Yeah, that is hard. It's a whole different skill.
Because I even got him to do practices and stuff, and he's like was okay with that. And then they're like, fruit. He's like, what?
What am I going to say about fruit?
Yeah.
Yeah. It actually gets easier when you get older because the topics stop being, say something about
too
fruit
easy
and start being like, here is a phrase. Somehow talk about this phrase. And you're like, sick. It then becomes, Leo will be great because it's just a formula.
Yeah, so that's why you love that.
It's so good. You just learn 4 topics or 3 topics and you learn how to match those topics to any question.
Right.
And you're killing it.
There you go.
If you can figure out, if you can nail the skill of figuring out what topic links with what question, you can blitz them.
Yeah, very good.
You'll do a really good job.
I'll have to have a chat to him about that this year.
Yeah.
Hey, Ethan, I'll ask the question I was meant to ask, which is, how did you become a Christian?
Yeah. How did I become a Christian? So the story goes, I don't know this story. Sorry, I was there. I wasn't.
You have no recollection.
I have no recollection. Thank you. That is what I'm looking for of this story. I was probably about 5 and maybe younger. I was in a car seat still, I think is the idea. My mum and dad were driving in an old Volkswagen Beetle. Dad is driving to a skate park to give a youth talk.
So on brand.
Which is really, objectively cool. Like, I haven't done that. I would love to do that one day.
VW Beetle to the skate park.
To the skate park to give a youth talk.
It's
I'm like, this
just
is sick.
So on brand with the Crawshaw brand is strong.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Dad is practicing his evangelistic talk with Mum in the car. And he gets to the point with his talk where he asks if anyone wants to become a Christian. And little Ethan in the back says, I want to become a Christian. And so they pull over on the side of the road and they stop and they pray with me. And that's when I became a Christian, when I was probably between 3 and 5 somewhere, which was really wholesome. I've been a Christian I have been a Christian ever since. But I think my faith was really active from a really young age. And I think that's partially because we talked about me being involved in Solis. Like, I've been really, like, I've grown up in this.
Yeah.
I grew up in a youth ministry with all these teenagers around me showing me how to be a Christian, and all these young adults around me showing me how to be a Christian. And that's been really beautiful and really exciting. And so much of who I am today is because of that. But Trudy was on last week. So Trudy tells this story, another story that I don't remember, about her daughter and I. We went to school together. We were in the same year.
You and Sarah?
Sarah.
Yep.
And Sarah came home one day and said to Trudy, Mum, I'm doing a Bible study at school. And Trudy's answer was, how? You can't read. and she's like, oh, but Ethan can read. And we every recess or lunchtime, we I think we'd do one lunchtime a week or whatever. We had organized it, and I would bring my Bible to school, and we'd open it. We'd sit down under the collar. We'd open the Bible, and I'd just pick a page and read a verse, and then we'd go and play.
Nice Bible study.
That was Bible study,
Solid.
Which is very similar to also the rest of my life. No,
You do Bible studies now?
yeah. You just pick and then play.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's just a fun. I had forgotten that story until Trudy reminded me of it about a week ago.
Okay.
But that was like so much of my life was that. I was the Christian at school. Like, there was a few other Christians, but I was the one who was known as a
He's
Christian.
in the Jesus guy.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. And that was a really awesome witness that I was able to do. I had a friend who dressed up as Jesus for Book Week just to like make me angry.
Really?
In a fun way. Like, he was like, not make me angry to get under my skin. He was just like
primary school.
This is primary
Book
school.
Week,
This
yeah.
is year 6 Book Week.
Wow.
This is like I'm dressed up as a hobbit. And I'm like just minding my own business, and this dude rocks up as Jesus, and he's like, I'm making fun of your thing. And I was like,
Really?
actually,
Wow.
it was a really funny costume though. So I thought it was great. And he thought that was,
Why was it funny?
he wore the sheet, like the toga sheet kind of thing. And he had the staff. But he had like a mullet shiny wig.
Shiny.
It was awesome. It was like silver and shiny, and it was the best. I was like, dude, you look radiant. It was awesome. He did look a bit more like Moses, but like if we're looking at the classical pictures of but it was very funny. I was like, this is great. But there was a lot of that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's how I became a Christian, and then I kind of grew up in this church space, in this youth group space as a pastor's kid, and as kind of a kid of a whole bunch of other people. A big part of my story is actually before all of that, and something Mum touched on her episode.
Yeah.
So if you want a better version of this story, check out Louise Crawshaw's episode 100.
Episode 100.
It's awesome. It's a really beautiful story, and I'm on that one, so you can come say hi.
There you are. Come say hi. It's in the past.
It's in the past. We there's a better version of that story, and I say better because I wasn't actually there for that bit. I was, but I wasn't there for that bit. I was in utero. My whole birth story is really quite traumatic.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of problems that happened and
continued after.
and continued to happen. Yeah. But so much of that story, and I'll rehash it really quickly if you haven't listened to that episode. I was born with this thing called Ivermark syndrome, and
I've never heard you name that. Cool.
Ivermark syndrome. One of the things that happens with Ivermark syndrome, you don't live usually. Kids who get Ivermark syndrome, they don't make it past being born. It was classically thought that wouldn't happen, particularly with what was happening in my case. Every scan on my case was like, he's not going to make it. One of the things that they noticed was that they didn't think I had any lungs at one point because they're doing all these scans and something's happened. What happens is that you get one of the things, there's a whole bunch of things that make up Ivermark syndrome, but one of the things is I had a hole in my diaphragm which had a whole bunch of my organs had moved up and squashed the organs from up top. So for example, my lungs looked like they weren't there. So when mum had me, they opened me up straight away, and I've still got the scars, and they like moved everything around, and
just the way you do that. Yeah, and it's just so simple. Just like move things around, tidy it up a little bit.
Yeah, you just shuffle around. She'll be right. Also, everything is on the wrong side. So my heart's on the right
side.
Other
side, isn't it?
Yep. Instead of the left, which is a great, like, if you ever have a
party trick.
Well, it's a party trick. It's one of those like, you get like icebreakers, like tell everyone something interesting about yourself. I'm like, I don't have that much interesting, but I have that, and that I have used consistently for my whole life. It's a great thing to do. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that, so I'm born, they move everything around, my lungs appear.
There they are.
I have a hole in my heart, but that heals itself over the next little while. I have, like, they have to fix up my diaphragm. They, while they're in there, they take my appendix out because it's on the wrong side, so they may as well. My spleen explodes. And so a part of this is asplenia. Or, here's a fun fact that I didn't know about until this year. I have 3 spleens. So only one of them exploded. So when they like pulled out my spleen, they were like, oh, he's got Ivermark syndrome. He's got no spleen. So because the spleen, whatever, probably ruptured. I don't know what the nice word is other than exploded, but exploded is a funnier word.
Ruptured is probably a good word.
Probably right. But
exploded is more dramatic.
It is a bit. It definitely wasn't that dramatic. Everything else was quite dramatic, but the spleen bit wasn't dramatic. But what's dramatic is that I have multiple anyway. So I now have 2. Isn't that fun? I thought I had 0 all my life, but I have 2. I don't know what a spleen
did
does.
have 3.
I had 3 at some point. Anyway, that's exciting. Another fun fact.
Very exciting.
And I didn't know that till just then, till like a month ago, 2 months ago.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm born, and it goes from Ethan is not going to be able to live, was the first one. So it was my parents were advised to terminate the pregnancy.
Yes. Yes, I remember that.
Mum and Dad prayed a lot about that and had lots of other people praying about that.
Yeah.
And to this day, people come up to me and say that they were praying for me when I was a baby.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. It went from you should terminate the pregnancy to when they went through with the pregnancy, it went to, well, now he's not going to walk or eat or some other things. And bit by bit, all these hurdles that we're told about kind of
because you were like fed through a
get
tube.
sorted out. Yeah, I was fed through a tube for years.
Yeah.
And then my great auntie just forgot and gave me a Vegemite sandwich, and I ate it.
Oh my gosh.
And she was like, that's crazy. He's eating food. So she tells that story all the time. So I hate Vegemite to this day. It's the worst.
Okay.
But that was my first ever food. And I was like 3 or something, and I hadn't eaten before, maybe older. But yeah, so that's wild. I've got scars for that too. I had like a peg and
on your belly button, wasn't it?
I think so. I've got scars here from tubes.
Your shoulder.
My shoulder.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're for, but they're tubes. I think there was one through my nose. It was all sorts of stuff. So that was really particularly traumatic for my parents. I think that was a really big deal for them, and is a big part of their story as well as mine. And I only tell it because so much of my life I get told about this, and I get reminded that God is doing something here in my life, because, or at least it was all him. Like, there was no moment where the doctors were like, this'll go okay. And through prayer and God's grace, I am walking, talking, like playing soccer. That was a big deal. Like, I was not going to be able to run. All that kind of stuff is a big part of my story, because to this, like I was sharing with someone recently that I've actually never been able to doubt in the same way. Like, I have had doubts, and we might get there as we talk about stuff, but I've never doubted whether God's real or not.
Interesting.
Because I've been so convinced that, like,
he had his hand over the whole situation.
He's done something here.
Yeah. It's obvious to me.
And so, like, I wouldn't be here if he wasn't real.
No, I think you're. I think you're a genuine miracle, mate.
And so I've been told, which is.
I understand. I was going to ask you a question about that though, because yes, it is, like you said, it's part of your parents' story, but it's also your story, and maybe in a slightly different way. But how does that kind of inform your identity? Like I could just say to you, you're a genuine miracle, and you're like, oh, people tell me that.
Yeah. But
what does it mean for you?
I don't think it doesn't change much of my day to day, but I think it's influenced my faith heaps. It's been a big deal from that perspective. It's despite being, I don't know, I think being called a miracle feels like it should be part of, like, big noting someone, but it's actually really humbling. And I don't know what to do, like, to this day. Like, I've had people for years be like, oh, I prayed for you, it's so miraculous, and da-da-da. I met someone whose name was Ethan because of me, which was wild.
What do you mean?
So someone had heard my story and then named their kid Ethan.
Really?
And so he's like 3 years younger than me or something like that.
Oh, wow.
It was wild. And so I met this kid and I was like, this is really, what do I do? What do I do with this? I was named, actually, before I answer your question, I was named after Ethan Hawke from Gattaca, which is a movie about a guy who, it's a great movie, and it's a movie about a guy who is born in a world where everyone is genetically enhanced and he's not. He's just a normal human. And so I think he wants to go to space or something, I don't know. And so he, like, tricks the system and works really hard and lives as one of the normal people, the other people, despite his disadvantages. And so I think mum and dad watched that when I was, just before I was born. They were like, that's the kind of person we want Ethan to be. We want him to be, despite being born in a way that is different. I want him to be okay. And so that's why my name's Ethan. So that's cool.
It is cool.
It's really humbling to know that nothing I have done I have really earned. And I'd see that over and over again in my life, that so much of, but my very life is a privilege, more so than it is potentially, not more so than others, but at a different degree to others. And that's what I'm reminded of regularly. And that's a really humbling thing.
Because I think you live your life like that too.
I try to, as a result. I think.
Well, I think it's, I was going to say obvious. It comes out.
And I don't get it. No one's perfect and I don't do it well, but I think there's always been, I think that's always at the back of your head and in experiences. Like it's not
Yeah.
always like I think I spent the first probably from when I was 4 till when I was in year 6. So what's that? Age 4 to age 12.
About 8 years.
About
maybe.
8
7,
years.
8 years.
7 or 8 years. Let's say that number. It's probably wrong. I was in a back brace for 24, 23 hours a day.
I remember.
Which was like this big contraption that was stuck
It was
around
front
there.
and back though.
Yeah, it like was your whole
Yeah.
your whole chest, torso situation. I actually one of my proudest moments that I will never up this experience. I was in year 5 and my friend, actually the same friend that dressed up as Jesus, was really regularly bullied. Like he copped it. He was a bit overweight and he had red hair and he had anger problems. And so that's just a perfect.
Wow.
Oh yeah. That is a perfect storm of bully me. So he's copping it from kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
And we're friends. And at one point, this kid was was picking on him, and I think I just got sick of it, and I was just like, dude, because I think it was the only time someone was willing to actually like throw hands, like they were actually going to punch him, and I was like, if you're going to punch the dude, just punch me instead. And I was like, punch me in the chest, just go for it. And there is a metal bar down my chest.
Yeah.
And so he punched me and he was in heaps of pain and it was awesome. Like I was riding off that high. I think I'm still riding off that high. It was awesome. That was probably the closest to heroic I've ever been. And it probably wasn't even that big a deal. It was just tiny, and he was in year 5 and we were in year 5. So it wasn't even a punch. It was just like little tap. But yeah, I think, why did I tell that story?
Just been talking about what it's like to be in that scenario after having a miraculous experience, in a sense.
Yeah, so the brace was a really regular reminder.
Oh, and the brace, yes.
Of that, because that was a part of it. This scoliosis is a part of the Ivermark syndrome stuff, and so
so you had scoliosis because of Ivermark syndrome, but that's why you had to wear the back brace.
Yes, yes, and that was really. That is something that made more of an impact on my life, because otherwise it would have just been a story from when I was little. But instead it actually was through a big chunk of time where I had to wear this reminder all the time. And so I think that was a big part of it shaping my life. But again, like...
It's the interesting thing is you don't know any different either, right?
Well, that's it, right? I've just always had this, and like mum and dad would say, "Oh, you did such a good job not complaining about the brace." I'm like, I don't know. I was from age 4 preschool to age probably 11 was the same thing every day. I don't know. It was no different, right?
But what's interesting is that you didn't notice. I mean, maybe you did. Did you notice other people didn't have to have that?
Yeah. Oh, like I knew I was different.
I think that's what. I think it's what your mum and dad are saying.
Probably, and that's why I was often reminded of. And that's why I was often reminded of the story of my birth stuff. Like I know it really well, because it's not something that is just in the background. I've also had to tell doctors all the time.
Oh, yeah,
every time you go to a new doctor, they're like, "What's your medical history?" And I'm like, "Well, have I got a story for you?"
You need to make a video.
Yeah, I've got a notes app I've got a note in my notes app that says stuff wrong with Ethan, and it's just a big list of all the stuff I've got. That's all because of that. It's all good fun. But the heart thing on the wrong side is really fun because doctors really like that. They get excited, particularly younger doctors.
What I find interesting is, and we talked about how you don't really know any different, but also I still think you like that today. You still just kind of live in a sense, like I think you just often living in thankfulness that you are, in a sense, like not to sound crass, that you are here. And I see, like it could have like you could have not been here. And I think that's actually really, I'm really realizing that now, talking to you about, like, we've been friends for a long time, but to hear you say that, I'm like, yeah, it is. And I think it's just encouraging to know that that's how you try and live, which is really fun. I suppose the only thing I'd ask that is maybe you just know, yeah, like you said before, God has been, it was apparent to you from an early age that God is real and God is taking care of things and is in control.
And he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And I think also you grew up in a family that's quite evangelistic.
Yes, very.
So I think that's like those two things combined, and you like to talk a lot, is why from a very early age you're like doing a Bible study, or you're doing like the guy is dressing up as Jesus and those kind of things. But I find that really encouraging because like, well, I didn't even know Jesus back then when I was that age. So I think, isn't it interesting that how like God's like, you're going to have some really difficult things in your life. Like you make, even when we talked about like people like downplaying themselves. Yeah. When you wrote a note saying things wrong with it, said the heading is things wrong with Ethan, I like immediately like, no, like, it's the same thing. But I know that you don't think that. I don't think you're saying you're special, but this is a special case. I think as a result, this is an observation, is like God has set you aside to do it. Like he's like, this boy's going to live and then he's going to go, make disciples of all nations and at least like be, the shining light that we talk about so much of in the Bible, is like, we need to go out and be a shining light for the Lord. And I think you are. And I think that's a lot of your origin story. Like a lot of that is rooted in your origin story.
Yeah.
And yeah, wherever I'm going with it, I don't know. But did you have a feeling, even we're talking about primary school now, did you have a feeling that you needed to tell people about Jesus even then?
Yeah. And I think that was partially because, I don't know, I'm growing up when like Solies is just going gangbusters and there's heaps of people in my house all the time and there's like mum and dad are so excited about people becoming Christians, and that is like the most exciting thing ever. And so of course I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I think all my friends should know this. This is awesome. And I didn't, like, I don't think I saw anyone become a Christian for a long time. So it wasn't, I don't know, I wasn't particularly, I know I didn't necessarily do it right. Like I got people to come to church. That was cool. But like by the time I got to year 11, I was year 12, I was one of 2 or 3 Christians in my school, right? Like, so whatever I was doing, I wasn't starting a revolution, which is also humbling, right? Like it's really important to be reminded that, and this is something that I've really struggled with, I think. It's hard to be reminded that you're special all the time and then realize that you're not.
Right.
I think that's been something in the grand scheme of my life, of just like, actually, like you're just a normal dude.
You're still sinful.
Yeah. You still sin. You still can't get stuff right. And you're not that good at stuff. Like you are. Like I can public speak. I can.
Yeah. We talked about that.
We talked about that. We you can do all this stuff, but I'm not.
Do you feel pressure to feel perfect then, or to be perfect then?
Oh, not from anyone other than me.
Right.
Like, I think there's a. And that's just a personal thing. No one has ever put that kind of pressure on me, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And I've like, mum and dad are awesome, and my teachers all through school have been awesome, and my friends all through my school life have been unreal. Like, I don't know. There's just been stuff has lined up in such a way that there has been challenges, but it's very easy to look at life and look at the lives of others and go, they are having a much harder time of stuff, so I'm going to just keep on keeping on. For example, this is fast forwarding a little bit, but we'll go back, I'm sure. So my dad tells his story about how when he was in high school, late high school, all his friends left him because they would rather go to the pub, and they were like, you're not going to be my friend if you don't come.
Yeah.
And so I had that in the back of my head, right? As a part of just life. I was like, oh, that's just what happens when you get to senior high. All your friends leave you because they prefer the thing and you need to be with them. Anyway, none of my friends were like that.
But
They
you're
all,
like, I'm going to be a Christian. And
yeah, I was like,
I know
I'm-
them, and my friends aren't a Christian, so they're all going to
Yeah.
leave me the same story.
sorry, yeah. Exactly right. And so all my friends started drinking a lot, and I made the choice to not go to a bunch of the things because I was going to church or I was whatever. And I just remember sitting with my friend once and just being like, dude, I am so thankful that you haven't ditched me. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, I just thought that because I'm a Christian and you're not, and because like you guys are into all this stuff and I'm not, that you'd all ditch. And he's like, he was really angry at me. He was furious. He's like, you thought we would ditch you. Like he was so mad. He's like, what kind of friends did you think we were? And I was like, oh, that's really lovely. Like it was a really beautiful moment. And I don't even know if my friend remembers that moment, but that was a really big deal for me because, it was just a reminder of, oh, these guys are lovely and they're dirtbags, but they're lovely. Like, and they're my friends and it's beautiful. And so that was a huge blessing, right? So you've got all this really hard stuff at the start, and sprinklings of hard stuff throughout. But there's also this thing of like, oh, you had all this and God's looking after you. Like God's given you some really nice friends. God's given you a really solid family. God's given you an optimistic outlook. Like
It's true.
Like that's all God given. And so when you get to when you have all that, and you get a bit older and you're like, oh, I'm not actually that special. Like that's a bit hard.
Okay.
But also, it's okay. That's just a reality that you have to.
That's part of your
figure out.
evolution as a person.
Yeah. It's just a part of your identity that you I have figured out and worked through.
So then when you finish primary school, when you go to high school, you're still known as the Jesus guy.
Oh yeah, totally. My first moment of, probably not my first, but my first proper moment of Christian ministry leadership happens in year 6.
Okay.
When all my friends have stopped going to the kids group at our church that we were at the time. And that's because the kids group is I think it's from like lower primary all the way through to year 6. So it's massive, but it doesn't often cater for the senior side of primary school. And so my dad was very lovely and recognized that and was like, why don't we, for the last term of year 6, start a year 6 group? We called it Zone 6, and we hung out in the Solly's house, which was just a little house on the premises of church, and we played Guitar Hero every week. We played Guitar Hero, we did a talk, and sometimes we'd have a fire. And we just do that every week. And to this day, I can't even remember the song. Is it Eye of the Tiger? No. It's one of those songs. And the Guitar Hero is green, green, red, red, green, green, yellow, yellow. And I could probably sing most of the song by colours, because what we would do is we would all stand there and yell the colours as we played the game.
Right.
Anyway, that's just like a core memory of mine. But that was Dad and I running a group together. So we planted a youth group, and it was awesome. And there was like 15 boys in it. It was rowdy as. And that launched me into high school with all these friends knowing, oh, Ethan really likes Jesus. And if they didn't already, most of them already knew it, but a greater number now know that I am a Christian because I am even more active and also and maybe it's not that they know I'm a Christian, it's that they know I'm a Christian and that's not that weird. I think that was what it was. It was, oh, he's a Christian and Christians are like us. We play Guitar Hero and hang out. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, oh, he's the weird spiritual kid. It's like, oh, he's normal and we just hang out. And so that kind of launches me into high school with a whole bunch of new friends and new people, but sets Ethan up as confident to go into that as a Christian. And that was never something that I worried about. I was like, yeah, I'm a Christian. Like, I'm going to be really clear about that. I'm going to go to the lunchtime group. I'm going to bring my Bible to the thing you got to,
when you have to read it,
when you have to read at roll call.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring my Bible to that because that's what I'm going to show people that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't always do that because I also really, really like reading because I'm a massive nerd. And so I would read other stuff too. So it just depended what I was into. But yeah, I was known as a Christian and that kind of culminated by year 12. I'm in the leadership team and I get asked to, the leadership team,
the leadership team is like school captain.
Yeah, I was vice captain. And instead of the school captain getting asked to speak at the Anzac Day ceremony, everyone else got asked to speak. Everyone else that was at that from different schools were school captains, except me, because my job was to pray for the Queen. And like there is a prayer for the Queen in the ceremony.
Right.
And so my job was to pray. And so they were like, oh, well, Ethan's a Christian. And so he'll actually mean it.
Which is it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah. But they were like, oh, and that wasn't a weird thing. That wasn't oh, you stupid Christian, go do the thing. It was actually like no, we would like respect you in that you actually, this is a job for you that you would be. And I think that was really, that really exemplified what people thought of me as a Christian. They didn't think I didn't feel like they thought it was super weird. And I had heaps of conversations about it. Like it wasn't super weird because I was normal plus. It was like I was very obviously a Christian. And yeah, it was. And so again, that was a really lovely school experience of like being really good friends with people and being a Christian and people being like, okay.
I'm sure you got heaps of questions. What do you think is the one that like tested you the most? Is there one that you can remember? You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah. So a big part of my testimony
tested your faith too.
Yeah. A big part of my testimony is I was in year 9 and I was walking to the station with a friend or I was walking to, anyway, it doesn't matter.
So why are you walking to the station?
I was probably walking to church and he was walking to the station. Is probably what was happening.
Okay.
And we were walking in the same direction. And he had been reading about nature versus nurture.
Okay.
And the question that came up was, are you a Christian because of your nature? Or are you a Christian because you have been nurtured in such a way that all of your decisions...
You've just been brought up that way.
You've just been brought up that way. Yeah. But it was deeper than just, is it because it's because of your dad? Like I'd thought about, is it because of my dad? And I'd been like, well, no, because I'm a Christian and it's because of my faith. But it actually less and more because is it my whole upbringing? Did all of that lead me to become a Christian? And if I was in a different one, would I have not? And so the question then became, if I was brought up in a different way, would I not be a Christian? And I went home that night and I was really unsure. And actually, you know what? I don't think it wasn't even going home that night. It was, he asked me the question and I didn't answer for a bit. We just kind of walked and I said to God, I was like, God, you know what? I don't think I care. Like, I don't think it matters. Like, if you put me here, this is the only place you put me here. But if you're not real and you didn't put me here and you didn't do all this, I've had lots of fun so far. And this is, as far as I'm aware, this is the best way to live. And so I'm going to do this. And so if you're not there, sure. But let's do this. And that was a really key moment.
Like of
I think.
solidifying your faith.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was able to turn to that guy and really confidently say no. Actually, no, I didn't confidently say that. I said, I don't know. But it doesn't matter because I didn't. I wasn't brought up that way. And if I believe God to be real, I believe that he has a plan. And so he did put me in this so I could be nurtured into becoming a Christian. And he did put me here so that my nature was someone who would be a Christian. Like he did both of those.
Yep.
And if I'm a Christian, I believe that. But yeah, I had to take a moment and really figure that out, which was that's a really big moment for me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It could have gone like the other way.
Yeah,
It really made you doubt a lot.
Could have really
It-
thrown
it-
me.
It didn't actually do that.
And like I said, I've had my doubts, like, and you do, right? Lying in bed at 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling, being like, what is life?
The worst time to
What
think
is
about anything.
existence?
It's like you should be asleep.
Yeah, it's like if I close my eyes, is that what death is really like? I don't know. Like you do that, right? And it has its impact too. But I don't know. That moment was just like, either way, I'm going to stick with this, and that was a big deal.
Yeah, I think I've had similar moments like that of like, well, even if it's not real.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, but it also, it's like, it's not like it was a terrible way to live,
No,
is it?
no, it's not at all. And it's also like, if it is real, and you get to heaven and God's like, come on in. And
Told
you're
you,
like,
pal.
oh, what a relief. Like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. That's something I've been building up to. Like, this is what it's all about. Like, this is great. But if it is real and I tapped out, you get there and you're like, damn it, I could have just, oh well. Too late to say sorry now. Like, that's awful. Like, what a like, I don't know, getting to the gates and being like, oh, Ethan stuffed up. Like, and I'm gonna already get up there and be like, oh, Ethan stuffed up, but I didn't stuff up that bad because I didn't walk away.
I think also it's like the doubt is often just like maybe just rooted in what people will think of you if you were wrong.
Possibly.
But the thing is like you're not going to know about that until you die.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's just also a lot of existential stuff in there as well.
What is
Just of
life?
like, what is life?
Why am I
Like,
here?
what is death?
Why am I here? What's the point of doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that too.
Yep.
I don't know. I think I care what people think of me, but I don't care that much.
Yeah, I think I'm less so than I used to, but it's still matter. It's still
Oh, it's still a big deal. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and I said that very confidently. I do care what people think of me a lot, but I don't know. I don't know how much that shapes my faith, interestingly. Like, I think it shapes a lot of what I
shapes
do.
your faith. Yeah, but shape maybe other things, but not your faith.
I think so.
Huh.
Like, it might shape how I behave at a wedding. Like, I don't know. I went to a wedding recently and I did.
Such a random.
I don't know. I went
example.
to a wedding recently and I didn't dance, and I was really bummed by that. And I was like, oh, it's actually because I don't want to make a fool of myself in front of all these people I don't know. Also, dancing is less fun when you're with people you don't know. But it was this thing of like, oh, actually, I don't have the confidence enough to just get in there and just do it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was a bummer. But so it definitely shaped my whole night there. But I don't know how much it shapes my like relationship with God.
Yeah, which speaks a lot to where you're actually your true identity lies is with Jesus.
I think so. And I think a lot of it comes back to, that Year 9 thing.
Yeah, I was going to say after that moment, did you go even harder? Do you think?
I don't think so. I think I've always been going pretty hard. Like,
Oh, I'm always going hard.
oh
man.
no,
Yeah,
without
I know.
the like, not to that. I say that, and I'm really wary that stuff I say comes across as like I'm a Christian flex. Like I don't want to do that. Like
oh no, I don't think. I just thought it was funny.
it was. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm glad. I'm really wary of that because I'm like,
Well, I think-
I'm pretty stoked with the fact that. Anyway, sorry. You go.
Well, I was just going to wonder if those experiences that we're talking about as you grew up, like you're saying, I have been going pretty hard my whole life, and then you're like, but some of the responses and reactions you've got to it is like, oh, am I just flexing, Christian flexing,
Yeah.
flexing for the Lord?
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's also, I think it's also a pastor's kid anxiety.
Yeah, that was another question I want to ask.
Yeah.
you.
Of like, I don't know. We get a lot of, there's a lot of pastors' kids that don't do it very well. We can be annoying and we can be self-righteous and we can be,
got all the answers.
we can be up ourselves in that. We can be a bit spoiled.
Yeah.
Even from a faith perspective, however that works. But like, oh, my dad's the pastor, so I run the place. Like that could be the vibe. And I like to think that I didn't ever do that. But at the same time, I think that's always at the back of my brain as a don't try not to look like that. Try not to be like that. And helpfully, I think partially because I was the son of a youth pastor. I wasn't the son of a senior pastor. I was.
You are now.
I am now. Yeah. But for most of my life, I was the son of, or at least the first 13 years or whatever, I was the son of a youth pastor. And so that's a very different vibe, I think.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that plays into just the expectations that people at church have of a senior pastor's child.
Yeah,
Just
probably.
They should know all the answers, or they should know this. And
I think it's also just they should be good. I don't think it's necessarily they should know stuff, but they should be good. They should be good people. And
yeah,
I think that's really hard on a kid sometimes.
yeah. There's even though like these unspoken expectations on children,
Yeah.
often they'll rebel against that harder than
Yeah, and I've seen that. I've seen lots of pastors' kids just tap out or not tap out, but like really push back against that pressure. And also just some kids aren't.
Is there a pastor's
kids aren't
kids
perfect.
support group or something?
I don't think so. I just
Just
know
sounds-
lots.
Yeah, I was going to say you know lots because of
Oh, I'm now at Bible college. It's a heaps of them there.
Oh, there's a few there.
I went to Christian camps. I went to LIT, which was awesome, and heaps of pastors' kids there. And yeah, I've just known a few over the years.
yeah.
That have just been.
You're in those circles.
Or in the Shire. There's circles.
Yeah,
Christian circles are pretty small.
networking.
And yeah, that's what it's all about. It's actually all about networking. It's all about.
It's about getting a handshake.
That's it.
It's about just knowing. It's who you know.
It's who you know.
It's who you know. That's how you get into heaven.
Oh, shivers.
Imagine if that's what.
Yeah, you get to the gates and you're like, hey, I know Joel. Can you let me in? Oi, Joel.
Hey, who
Can you
says,
let me in?
who
Open
says
the gate for me, bro.
Who says I'm dying before you?
That's a good
Come on,
point.
man.
That's a good point.
I'm living to 120.
Go for it.
I'm one of those guys, those longevity guys.
Yeah, have fun. I'm tapping out.
Drinking just these.
I don't want to be here at 120.
concoctions.
Shivers. Oh my goodness. Look like it's like Voldemort in the last at the end. He's just like, whoa. That's fully 120-year-old me. I don't think I'm making it, man.
So we're finishing school. Well, you are. I'd already finished school by this time. As you
Where are we up to? We're in high school. We're finishing high school.
Yeah, you finishing
we're
high
at?
school.
Yeah.
You became vice captain. Is that something you wanted to do?
Yeah. In primary school, I became the school captain, which was very fun. And that happened because my friend Luke turned to me when everyone was putting their hands up to see who would like to go for it.
Yeah.
Luke turned to me and was like, if you go for it, I'll vote for you. I was like, okay, that'll do.
Nice.
Like I've got one.
Yep.
And so I was like,
at least one vote.
well, if I get one vote, then one person
Yeah.
cares. So like I don't want to do it and get none. That'd be lame. And so I was like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll go for it. And then through public speaking skills and some other things, I got to school captain, which was very lovely. But it was a very similar thing in year 12 of like, some of the boys were like, yeah, go for it, do it. And I was like, okay. It was a race for second. The dude that got school captain is probably
I thought you said you became school captain.
in high school. I was vice.
Oh,
In primary school, I was school captain.
yeah.
These are different events.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The race, there was a race for second
At school captain.
high
At
high school.
At
Okay.
high school. At high school, the guy that became school captain is the loveliest man on the planet. Like, I love him. I actually love him. He's also probably the coolest person I've ever met. Like, by definition of the word. Like,
Wow.
he's awesome. He started a knitting club at Kirrawee High and was still the coolest person you've ever met. You know what I mean? Like,
That's impressive.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive. He
Knitting's
was
cool, guys.
very confident in himself and very
Yes.
comfortable in.
I think that's where the coolness
that's where
really
it was.
comes from.
And he
doesn't
was very. He now works in.
it? International relations.
No. It's like disability care.
Oh, okay.
Like he's beautiful. I love him, and he's just kind. And it was one of these beautiful examples of someone who is just comfortable and kind, being the most loved person in the year.
It's like the thing you actually wish you were
Yeah.
when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
And very rarely anyone actually gets to it.
And he had his flaws, I'm sure, and he has grown up into an even more beautifully kind man. But anyway, that was just me setting the scene, because my friends in my friendship group all started putting signs up all around the school.
Like vote 1, Ethan.
Well, it was actually
That's so cool.
So in high school, I got the nickname Fish. In about
Oh, yes, explain that.
in year 7. It was week 1 of year 7. A teacher got my name wrong. Called me Ethan Crayshaw, and my group of my year 7 class just decided that was really funny and
is
called
pretty
me
funny.
Crayfish
Yeah.
for a week. But that's too hard.
Too long.
It's too long. So you shorten it to Fish. Now, what happened, the phenomena that happened was that I was still meeting people. Like,
Oh, like, because it's
Like,
the first week of school.
it's first week of school. You don't know anyone, right? And so I'm still meeting people, and I'm then getting introduced by all my new friends in my class are introducing me as Fish to people, to all these new people. And so, like, I have Lewis has been on the podcast. He didn't know my name until I think year 10.
You just knew he was fish.
He just knew me. I was just Fish, and we never shared a class. And so he found out my name at lunchtime one day and was shook. Like, he was
What?
what? Anyway, because only teachers called me Ethan. Like, everyone called me Fish. So we get to year 12, and there's stock photos of Fish on A4 sheets of paper put up all around the school that just says "Vote for Fish."
Vote for the fish.
Vote 1 Fish. And I
like
had
that.
no hand in it at all. I was very embarrassed, and they were
Oh,
mostly doing
were
it.
you accused of it?
No, yeah, everyone was like, why are you putting posters up? And I'm like, I'm not putting posters up. It's these idiots.
I'm not voting for you.
I just don't, you please don't vote for me. I don't, what are you doing? And it was actually, and also, to be honest, most people realized that I wouldn't do that. But it was very entertaining, just as a part
That's
of.
cool. I'm back your friends doing that. That's heaps good.
Well, and that's why I compared it to the primary school thing, because both of them were like, I'll do it because my mates
Yeah.
are there for me.
Yeah.
And that was lovely. So that's why I did that. It wasn't necessarily something that I was always gunning for. Like, I didn't do SRC at all through school. If
Student
that helped.
Representative
Student Representative Council. I didn't even care.
I don't care.
I didn't.
I don't care about political things.
No.
I'm just a man of the people.
I am a man of the people. Vote 1 Fish.
I'm a fish of the people.
I'm a fish of the people.
It's the stock photos. Like, was they real fish or was it like cartoons?
They were real fish with watermarks on them. It was awesome.
Oh,
It was
with
so
the watermarks just makes it extra.
Yeah, it was
memeable.
great.
Wow.
It was really stupid.
Well, there you go. So, what about like HSC year 11 and 12 vice captain?
Heaps of fun.
Yeah.
Loved it. It was awesome. Was just got into late night. So I was doing that for the first time.
Oh, at church.
At church. So I'm like doing heaps of ministry. I got heaps of free time because you finally get free periods. And again, Lewis, he lived across the road from the school. So every free period, we would go across the road and play video games at his place.
Oh, sick.
It was the best. Or we'd go up the road and get hot chips from or get Japanese. Like it was awesome. It was the best. And so we would, I solidified a lot of really good friendships. I didn't get my P's until after high school.
Ooh.
And so it meant that I was the one leech off all my mates who did have their P's.
Can I get a lift?
Yeah, and it was great because I was like the first stop in Grace Point anyway. So most people going into Grace Point were like, yeah, I'll give you a lift for sure because you're not out of anyone's way, which was very convenient. But it meant that I had got really close with a bunch of mates that we would go for drives and stuff like that. It was really fun. I really liked year 11, 12. It was great. HSC was the HSC. I didn't study. I watched probably the whole of the Netflix library, which is it is funny to say, but it is a moment of sin in my life because I had spent the year, particularly the lead up before trials, not studying, and my parents were so lovely and so helpful and so patient, and they'd bring me food and they'd do stuff for me, and I'd sit in their office and watch Netflix instead of do the things they thought I was doing. And so that was that was
I feel like you regret it a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's the only time my mum has ever yelled at me that I remember.
Wow.
Was when my marks came back and I had to explain that, no, I didn't study for business studies. And that's why I got 51%. And she's like, but you've spent months on this. And I said, well, actually I haven't. I've actually spent no time on this. And I didn't do very well in my trials because I did nothing beforehand. And I crammed the night before for everything. And you can cram for most stuff, but business studies was just content. You just had to know it all. And so that was my downfall, right? Was I did okay at everything else, but I did bad in that. And so my hiding came to light. And mum was really upset not because I did bad. Like she was upset that I did bad because she'd put a lot, but she didn't actually care about being bad. She was upset that I lied to her, that I said for
kind of hidden that.
Yeah. Oh, I did hide that. So that was a big deal, I think. That was really sad for her and for me. And it was just a lovely example of her being upset because she had provided for me heaps and worked really hard to look after me. And I was an annoying teenager that did the wrong thing. And that's just the reality of it. Like, I'm also a procrastinator which we've had lots of conversations about. And
I feel like that's a label you put on yourself that you don't.
It might be.
Perpetuates it.
It might be. In the same way that I decided in year 11 that I can't do maths anymore. And now I physically can't do maths. Like we dropped out of maths, me and the boys, from because you could after year 10. And so instead of whenever anyone would ask us a maths question, we'd say, oh, sorry, we don't do maths. I don't do maths. You just be like,
sorry, we don't do maths.
Yeah, I just feel I don't do maths. And so honestly, what happened was I trained my brain out of maths and numbers just fuzz. And I'm convinced that I've had dyscalculia all my life.
Dyscalculia?
It's like dyslexia, but for numbers.
For numbers, okay, yeah.
And I'm convinced I've self-diagnosed myself with that.
Right.
It's probably not a thing, but I've decided.
Not a thing for you?
Yeah. It's probably not a thing that I actually have, but I've decided that I do.
Dyscalculia is
No. It's definitely real, but I don't think I have it. But I do. I stand by the fact that I have it. Where was I going?
Do you think those two things, like, you're saying that you were upset that looking back on it, you were just not pleased with your own behavior.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like, no, I don't do maths. Was it part of it? Is part of that like, well, I don't do maths, or if it's something that's a bit hard, it's like, well, if I just say I don't do it, then I won't have to do it or won't have to worry about it? Because you're talking about procrastination as well.
Maybe. I think procrastination has, as I've reflected, has been a big part of my life for a long time. And I think it the amount of work you put into something is lessened if you spend a lot of time procrastinating. And so as I, like, you know how you get later, or you get out of school and you're like, oh, I was really smart in school. And I was like, oh, I actually wasn't that smart in school. It was just easier. And
The thing that I relied on in school is my memory.
Yeah, sure.
My memory's quite good, but
I was able to fly by the seat of my pants throughout.
yeah, you're very good at improvising.
Really good at improvising. Really good at improvising. And I still am. And the things that I'm good at are the things that I get to improvise at, not the things that I have to sit down and figure out for extended periods of time.
Yes.
With lots of
so maybe like the key to like studying the HSC was like, how do you improvise a study technique or something?
What I got to was I would use, we talked at the start about public speaking.
Yep.
The impromptu model
Yes.
that I set up was how I studied for the HSC and is still how I study.
I see.
You learn what kinds of questions there are. You learn a set, maybe 2 essays, and you hope that it fits. you make it fit. You don't hope, you make it fit. Mm-hmm. And if you know enough of the content, you can make anything fit.
Yeah, okay.
And that's how I studied. I had a palm card with notes on it, and I could have an essay on one palm card, and I could go in. And I just did this for my latest Moore College essays. I walked in with 6 palm cards, maybe 8 palm cards. There was 4 essays I had to write, and if I knew those palm cards well enough, I could write 1,000 words.
Are you allowed to have them in the...
No. Like I was beforehand reading them, and I had written them as my study.
Got it. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just a tactic that works as someone who doesn't, like, it works in short bursts.
When our staff team, we've been talking about how like some of us are higher on the improvised scale or not. And I've been thinking a lot about like how do you harness that in a scenario where like things are the same each week, for example. Maybe then that's a good way of doing it, like you're saying.
Yeah, just be happy to be excited to change things up.
Yeah, that's cool. So, finished school.
Yeah.
I think you do year 13, don't you?
I did do year 13.
Yeah. Because that was you
really
weren't sure.
No,
You really wanted to do that.
No, the choices I had were go into. So I've wanted to be a pastor for a very long time, but I get to year 12 and my life has looked like I wanted to be a pastor when I was 4 because I found a video.
I was going to ask you how long has it been? Okay.
Mum found a video for my 21st and played it at my 21st, which is very wholesome, of me when I was really, really little. And she's videoing me and says, Ethan, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I say, I want to be a pastor like Dad. And which is very cute. It's a really great video. I'm adorable. But that kind of stops being a thing. And I want to be a writer. I want to write books.
Okay.
And then I want to be a detective. And I abandon my want to be a detective when I find out that you have to be a policeman first. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be a policeman. I just want to be a detective. So what's the point of doing? I don't know what that primary school logic was, but it was this thing of like, well, why would you? I want to be a policeman. So I ditched that dream altogether. And then I wanted to be a film director. And then I learned that was really hard. Not just to do, but to get like, it's just not, you can't get into that. Like it's wild. And so when I finished school, I'd kind of come back around and gone, actually, I think I wanted to be a pastor that whole time. Like, cause I was doing ministry that whole time and loving it. But I was like, but I'm not sure yet. So what I'll do is I'll sign up for uni and I'll do a communications degree, and get into that field because I'm quite capable in that field, and it's better than film directing. Like, I don't actually care that much about films, but I would love to be creative and do stuff. So with video work, and so I'll sign up for a communications degree, and my ATAR was good enough to get that. But I'll take a year off to figure out if I want to be a pastor or not by doing a diploma of the Bible.
Diploma of the Bible.
That's what Mum calls it, because we could never remember what it was called, so we would call it Diploma of the Bible. To do anyway, it's one of those self-perpetuating, like you just pick a silly name for it instead, and that is the name that sticks. So I got a Diploma of the Bible from my 1 year of year 13. Also, what I learnt later was the beautiful thing about year 13 was that I hadn't actually spent much time with Christians my age, and all of a sudden there's 90 of them or 60 of them or whatever it was. It was insane. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best. Like I was just so encouraged for that whole year of just like, this is awesome. I did learn that that's actually not where I want to be. I don't want to be with no one but Christians.
Interesting.
Like I got to the end of the year and I was like, okay, I want to go talk to a non-Christian now. Like I got on the train on the way to uni and I was like talking to people every day. And I was really annoying, and I have since backed off a little bit. But I was just so needing people that were different.
Interesting.
And particularly people that weren't Christians. I don't know what that was. And I don't think I've felt it since, like as fervently as I felt it then. But yeah, it was a pretty big deal of just being able to be like, oh, it's so awesome that I now have heaps of really good Christian friends. That's a really important part of my life. Also, I learnt that I really, really like talking to being a Christian to non-Christians.
Yeah, right. So that obviously year 13 served a purpose.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Very
and I
much
learned
so.
heaps. I learned so much in that diploma.
Of
It
the
was
Bible,
awesome.
yep.
Of the Bible. Like we did biblical theology, and it was the first time I had like properly sat in that, which was really cool. Like I knew it, but I didn't know it. Like it was awesome. We did a whole bunch of like big doctrines of the Trinity and stuff, and I learned that it's all very complicated and it's awesome. Like it was so good. It was so good. But yeah, it was mostly the people. It was just lovely. Yeah, it was really cool.
It's interesting. I think Braden and I we've talked a lot on this podcast about introversion and extroversion. And we think you're very much on the extroverted scale.
I did a test.
Oh,
And I'm like 98%
extroverted.
like, but to the point where like I'm doing like studying is a really good example, and exercise is another really good example. Those two things, if I'm doing them with people, I am in.
Right.
But if I'm alone, it sucks. Like I am so bad at exercising
Which might be a thing about your procrastination too.
because I'm not doing it with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I've identified that recently, particularly with the study stuff. I have found I was finding ancient Greek really difficult. I'm studying at Bible college at the moment. Finding ancient Greek.
Very, very few people find ancient Greek difficult.
Everyone finds it hard, but it has been heaps easier because I've been 3 times a week meeting with my friends and sitting in a room and reading in ancient Greek. It was awesome. It completely, and that started halfway through this term,
Right.
and that completely changed I did, I think, reasonably well in the exam.
Oh, great.
Like I think I passed,
Yeah, okay.
which I was not.
For Greek.
Well, we were doing little weekly quizzes. Every week you'd get a little quiz, and that would quiz you on the stuff you learned last week. And I failed every single one until we got to
The final?
no this until like halfway through this term.
Yeah.
So I'd done a term of them and failed them all, and then halfway through this term, I had started this reading group, and I was passing them consistently.
Oh, awesome.
And that was just a really interesting moment to teach me about what I need when I study and what I need when I do stuff. Like people is really important to me. And so when you do something like year 13, yeah, the most important bit was the people. When I did school, the most important bit was the people.
Whereas like your year 12 thing, you're in that room on your own.
Oh yeah, it sucked, and that was totally it. However, when I was studying at the library with my friends, I got lots done.
Yeah.
And that was post trials. I worked really hard, and I did pretty well. I worked really hard, but yeah,
That's interesting. But it also, I think it's, I mean, if you say you want to be a pastor,
Mm.
it's actually a really good,
I-
a very good,
I think,
very good scale to be tipping that way.
yeah, I think if we're talking nature nurture, I think it's a very helpful to be naturally like that. It is a very helpful thing for this career, if that's the way you think about it.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about year 13,
Yeah, man.
what's like the one thing that you took out of that? Like there was a thing of you saying, I'm a bit tired of just hanging out with Christians. I need non-Christians. But what's the one thing you took out of that? Like that you said you were glad you did it. What's the thing that stood out to you the most?
I think other than just the friends I have now, I saw a dude the other day that I haven't seen since year 13, and I gave him the biggest hug because I love him so much, and he has such a huge. So many of the people there have such huge places in my heart because they, in just a year, made such an impact on me. The other thing I learnt is two of the best things for relationships. One of them, road trips. The second one, sleepovers. I stand by this. We would sleep over. So we'd go. The way E13 works is you go Wednesday, Thursday, and you stay overnight on the Wednesday night. And that was unreal because that overnight thing, you just become really good friends when you're stuck in a room together late at night and you've got nothing better to do.
You definitely do.
And it's really good. Like I think, and sleepovers is a silly word for it, but I stand by as an adult that like going camping together is an example of something the dudes would do. And I don't know if this is the same for girls, but I think for guys, they're the two best ways to be friends with someone. And it's awesome. And so because of the consistent staying over, the friends I have at year 13 are so cherished and deep, despite only a year of friendship with them.
Yeah.
I had a mate who I hadn't seen for years, and he's going over to Japan. He's going to go live there, which is really exciting for him. And I caught up with him, and it was like no time had passed, and it was just the most delightful 2 hours ever. And I was like, dude, I'm probably not going to see you again till heaven. And that was the last thing I said to you, was I probably won't see you again till heaven. And I'm so excited to see you there, man. It's going to be awesome. Like, go well, have fun. I love you. And that was also beautiful.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So I love that. I think the relationships are really beautiful.
So we just talked about exiting school. We've been going for a while. Do you think we pause this and we do another?
Oh,
episode?
we've been going for so long.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, everybody.
It's been good.
I just want to publicly apologize to all the people listening to my voice for an extended period of time.
So should we call this part 1 and then we'll do the second part of your life in another episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let's definitely do that or not keep going?
No, let's pause. Yeah. No, we don't need to keep going. Yeah. The only other thing I should say is that I met my wife while I was at year 13, like the year, so we get to this point.
It's a very good teaser.
We get to this point, and I have just met Katie.
So, that's a good teaser.
Yeah.
We'll kick off the next
I didn't meet her
episode.
at year 13. I met her at church.
But you were in year 13.
Which made year 13 heaps better because you go into year 13 looking for a wife is a very different way to enjoy year 13. Like year 13 is really good either way.
Like do that thing of like introduce yourself and why you're here. Like I'm here for a while.
I'm here for a woman, which like in the back of my head was actually a really genuine thing. Was like these are the first Christian women I met that were my age. Like I hadn't.
Because at Soravol Church there weren't many
other than
Christians your age. Really.
Other than Sarah, who I went to school with, there was no Christian. I did not know a Christian female my age until year 12.
I see.
And then I met a few. That was really lovely. I met at LIT, but I didn't talk to girls. Girls are gross. And so by year 12, I met a few Christian girls. That's really cool. And I meet Katie at the end of that year.
Wow.
Which is really cool. And then into year 13 where I meet a whole bunch. But I've already met Katie. And so I'm just making friends. And that's all the year 13 is. And it's great. And it meant that my friend and I, halfway through year 13, you go on a trip. You go to Fiji. For a month. That's lovely. It's really cool. Another thing that's happening during Fiji. I'm sorry, we said we're going to stop, but we probably won't talk about year 13 again next time. So I just wanted to close this. There's a rule at year 13 where you're not allowed to date anyone until after Fiji.
Oh, after Fiji.
Because they're like, well,
What happens
people,
in Fiji?
well, people are going to date, right, at some point. And
There's-
Fiji's a
yeah,
really
some-
good
at
halfway
least.
point.
Yeah.
And so let's just give them, like, let's just try and force everyone to just be friends. And then afterwards they can, like, no holds barred. But what you do is, I don't know if this still happens, but what happened at my year was on one of the last nights in Fiji, you're doing like a debrief week. And one of those nights is you all get in a room together and have a discussion about whether you want to lift the dating rule or not.
Oh.
And there were some people really passionate to keep the no dating rule. And there were some people really passionate to raise the dating rule. And me and my friend were sitting in the back. And this same friend that has now gone to Japan was sitting at the back. I'm like weeping just thinking about how funny I found this. And we already had girlfriends outside of year 13. And so we were just like standing up and making points.
Like
and
really? I say.
I think, and I'm like so passionate, and we didn't care at all. And we were just like causing, like, I reckon I made arguments for and against both sides.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 times just to like stir
Just
the pot.
lighting some fire.
Oh, it was so fun. And it was all in good humor. Like everyone thought it was lovely, and it was a really lovely chat. It was really nice. But some people were so fired up, and me and my friend at the back were just giggling to ourselves. It was awesome. We had no skin in it's like you had no skin in the game. It was
Yeah.
just watching this and having a bit of fun.
Yeah.
It was really good.
No, that's cool.
But yeah, that made year 13 a really lovely experience. It was really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah.
But it's a good way to kick off the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about, there's a time you met Katie.
Yeah.
Because I do remember her story. She's like, the light was shining behind his head.
Yeah. And I'm like, who are you?
But let's leave it there. It's
Sounds
been
good.
fun. It's been fun, though. And thanks to everyone that's been
Fabulous.
listening or watching.
Yes.
Yes. Just point at the camera. That's a good idea. Yes, you.
You
You.
people.
You.
You listeners. Thank you for listening to me and Joel. We could talk. I reckon I could probably go for another like hour. Like
I think you
really
could.
easily. It's very hard to get me to be quiet. So I think that was a really good moment of stoppage.
Yeah, I think we'll do that, and we'll finish with the one way.
Yeah.
And then stay tuned for Ethan's second part.
Yeah, man. Sounds good. One way.